McCormack, Director of Hydrogen Ireland, a green hydrogen power-to-X expert and one of the founders of Hydrogen Ireland. Relentless optimist with drive and determination to propel change. Entrepreneurial innovator, technology ambitious and intellectually curious innovations manager at Belfast Metropolitan College. This is the Energy News Biz interview series. To support it, please check out our advertising options in the description. Thank you. And now, here's Paul McCormack. Who is Paul McCormack?
Paul McCormack is a 59-year-old innovator and entrepreneur born and reared on the island of Ireland. Passionate about clean energy, passionate about the green economy, and share the vision across Europe that hydrogen is a clean energy vector. It's not a silver bullet, but it's an opportunity for us to clean our energy solutions, to provide energy security and energy sovereignty from renewables, what we call hydrogen renewables, across different countries, and allow countries such as Ireland and other countries across Europe to develop their own energy supply chain away from fossil fuels. As we import almost 85% of our energy, those are costs we can't control. Those costs are passed on throughout the whole economy, throughout the community. Whereas if we look now to renewables, and we look to develop in a greater balance with nature, to harness wind, bio, solar, and other renewable sources, and using hydrogen as that catalyst, that clean energy vector, it allows countries to develop their own energy system, develop their own energy independence, and develop a new energy economy based on clean molecules and clean electrons, and develop that green economy, which will be a benefit for everybody across Europe and the world.
Can you tell us more about the GenComm?
GenComm Project started about 8 years ago with a group of partners in France, Brussels, Germany, the UK, Ireland, and we developed a project looking at small hydrogen valleys or hydrogen hubs. How could we create a new energy equation for wind to hydrogen, bio to hydrogen, and solar to hydrogen? So we developed GenComm, which is essentially generating energy secure communities, developed 3 projects at different scales and different utilization, where the wind to hydrogen in Northern Ireland, run by Energia, powers hydrogen fuel buses. The bio to hydrogen in Stornoway, developed and run by Pure Energy, is a closed circuit model developing hydrogen for the industry. And solar to hydrogen in Aegis in Saarbrücken in Germany is solar to hydrogen for mobility for cars. Those different hydrogen projects, all at different scale, have now demonstrated the optimization of hydrogen. They have become the blueprint for larger hydrogen valleys. We also developed a number of techno-economic tools on the back of those projects, where we have the decision support tool, now the enabling support tool, headed up by the University of Galway and the University of Luxembourg and High Energy in the UK, allowing communities to make informed decisions on their green energy pathways. It's taking the data and turning the data into information, so that it gives the information in a credible form for communities to use and develop that forward, specifically for mobility, for bus deployment and clean energy mobility for communities. So GenComm has been done through 6 years of that project. We're coming to an end of the project now. We're now looking at the next stage post GenComm to take those projects and develop them further, but also then develop other renewable opportunities such as geothermal to hydrogen and other renewables to increase that project reach, develop hydrogen valleys, and look to see where we can now accelerate the hydrogen journey. We've been successful with Shamrock, which is a hydrogen valley bid in Galway, which has received funding, and we're working on Valentia Island off the coast of Kerry, with Rathlin Island off the coast of Northern Ireland, to look at geographical and technically remote regions and how hydrogen becomes an energy saver, but also a community building block for the foundations of the community security and energy.
You mentioned GenComm's involvement in the development of 3 microhubs for hydrogen European pathways. How do these pathways work, and what is their application?
The pathways demonstrate not just the technical feasibility, but the economic opportunity of hydrogen. So it's our demonstration pathways to show communities, funders, and industry where hydrogen sits in the value chain, where hydrogen is the opportunity not just for meeting our climate goals, but also for meeting our energy goals, and also importantly, where hydrogen helps with energy poverty. So it's that triple crisis that we're looking to address: energy security, energy cost, but also the climate change. So it's the three-legged stool where we create that balance. It demonstrates the pathways, as I said, economically, but also the social pathways, so that we can create a clean energy transition to net zero. And it's a just transition. It's not just for large industry, it's where communities play a part, where the public bodies and the authorities also then play a supporting role, and where everybody then, through those pathways, are able to gain acceptance, secure availability, and move the economy forward in balance with the community and in balance with their energy need. So those pathways with the micro hubs from wind, bio, and solar are now being accelerated and magnified to create larger hubs, larger valleys, but importantly, interconnecting the valleys so that lessons learned across different projects have been shared openly, and where partners then are able to access that information through our community hydrogen forum, which is open to all to look at the lessons learned, take the tools, use them, road test them, and update them as we go along. As we create a community that is evolving into clean energy, we need to share the information. That's as important as sharing the technology, so that we share the lessons and that we share the opportunities, so that all of Europe is able to address the Fit for 55 rules and goals, but also become part of the wider Repower EU, where we all sit as different pieces in that European hydrogen jigsaw, and how we play a central role in that, in whatever part, be it in Bosnia, be it in Italy, France, Germany, Macedonia, or wherever, how we all create that level playing field where that opportunity is accessible by all, but the benefits are enjoyed by all. So it goes beyond just meeting fossil fuel demand. It's how we now transfer companies, industries away from that, create a transition pathway, which is part of the balance pathway to net zero, and then create that opportunity. In Hydrogen Ireland, which we run, we have our conference coming up now in 28th, 29th November in Belfast. And the title of that conference is Creating a Balanced Pathway to Net Zero, where hydrogen is that catalyst for creating that pathway.
You mentioned that the GenComm project is nearing its end. So how has this project contributed to the development of energy secure communities, such as the first hydrogen supply chain in Ireland? And what impact has this had on the local economy?
When we developed our application 8 years ago, the world has changed immensely. We have witnessed the climate change targets being reached, or being accessed to the 2030 goals and 2050 goals. We then had Putin invading Ukraine, which created an energy demand across Europe that needs to be met. It has highlighted the need for energy sovereignty, for energy independence, and for countries to be in charge of their own value chain. We have worked with all the different partners across the project and with the different countries to help inform and shape their hydrogen strategies. None more so than in Ireland here with the Department of Energy, Climate and Communications, with the team there under John Finnegan to help shape the hydrogen strategy that Ireland released this year. But now to start putting meat on the bones and working with the different groups to develop projects, develop ideas, and develop those concepts, so that the strategies across Europe are interlinked and intertwined. We help shape, work together with the partners and inform that. We're also part of Hydrogen Europe, the wider governing body of different associations and trades, to shape EU policy, to inform EU policy, and to drive greater projects looking at the technologies beyond 2030 that will help us meet the 2050 goals, such as different renewables onshore and offshore. The offshore range of Ireland is phenomenal. How we address that in a sequential manner and use that for the benefit not just of the Irish nation, but the European nation, as we set those targets and reach those targets for net zero.
In your opinion, and you just mentioned, what are the most critical factors in achieving the climate targets of 2030 and 2050 through the use of hydrogen technologies?
One of the main targets is public acceptance, first of all. awareness that we have these targets and an acceptance that we must reach them. It goes beyond just climate change. It must meet those environmental goals, the commercial goals, and the economic goals. So as we drive to the 2030 and 2050 targets, we're witnessing a change in the hydrogen economy, where hydrogen now at the minute is being driven by governments to meet their CO2 targets for 2030. That will transition from a supported industry to a commercial industry, where they transfer across then, and it becomes a commercial opportunity for industry to engage. It's a nascent industry at the minute, where government are highlighting the opportunities, and government are using mobility as some of the earliest targets. As we then start to develop more in-depth hydrogen value chains, we come to what we presented on last year in Energy Week and Hydrogen Week in Brussels, is where hydrogen becomes a commodity. It goes beyond just an energy. It's a commodity that communities will accept, will recognise, and enjoy the full environmental, commercial, and economic benefits by creating what we talked about earlier, that just transition to net zero. We will be developing new economies based on the back of hydrogen and changing the energy equations, where it's no longer fossil fuel being imported to meet our demands. It's how we change our focus, our view, and our delivery, using hydrogen and other clean energy vectors such as ammonia and others to meet our energy needs, to decarbonise our industry, but also to reskill our communities, to give them the opportunities to reskill, take those adjacent skills, take those transferable skills, and use that as the driving force for industry to recognise the benefits and use the people then to drive the economy. It is not energy that's going to drive the economy, it's people. And how we put people at the centre of everything we do. And that's why we have developed the Community Hydrogen Forum, to create that awareness, let people recognise the opportunity, and build the opportunities that are different across Europe. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We talk about hydrogen topography, where hydrogen will have different uses in Bosnia to that of Ireland, because we're an island off an island. But we'll also have different opportunities to grow that and to share the lessons, so that hydrogen becomes a European economy, but all pieces of that European jigsaw we talked about earlier, where they all fit together seamlessly and create that awareness and opportunity for all.
Could you share some insights into the expected impact of the European hydrogen value chain on the job creation and transition to a clean energy economy?
If we look at the early stages in the hydrogen valleys across Europe, they're predominantly where there are the greatest demand at the minute and possibly earliest opportunity. We must grow beyond the valleys and create the networks. In Hydrogen Ireland and GenComm, we talk about the European Hydrogen Highway. Well, that highway runs from east to west and north to south, encompassing all of the European community and the accession states, so that everybody has an on-ramp and an off-ramp to access those benefits. We then start growing and looking at the technologies where different countries have different opportunities, be it from wind, bio, solar, or other renewables, where they create that economic opportunity locally, but as part of an international economic benefit. That European highway, as I said, transversing across Europe and beyond, will create a pathway for those to join. It creates the level playing field across Europe, so that the skills are transferable. We look at the vocational mobility, where people are able to bring their skills at different levels across different industries. And then we look at going beyond the valleys. If we look, we don't have a large steel industry in Ireland, but we have mobility in a regional community. So how do we use hydrogen for that? Germany's looking at greening their steel industry. We have other parts of Europe looking at chemical and looking at other parts of industry. We then need to look at, it's not just hydrogen. When we use electrolysis, you have hydrogen and oxygen. We're now looking at where the two energy opportunities can be used. And in Slovenia, looking at the glass industry, oxygen is a key part of that energy mix. So as we split water, we have two energy components, that hydrogen and oxygen. We then also have the green credentials, if it's green hydrogen, and then we have the CO2 offsetting. So there are different energy opportunities and revenue streams. And that new energy equation that we've talked about, we need to move away from the current energy equation we use for fossil fuels, create a new equation that's going to create the new economy, and use that new energy mix as the growth opportunity for Europe and all of the citizens in Europe to create a greater opportunity for community coherence, community security, and national growth.
What is the significance of the four-stage green hydrogen accommodation value chain, and how does it contribute to the hydrogen as a commodity?
We break hydrogen down into the four simple facts where it becomes a commodity: actualization, development, and all of that commercialization. It allows people to see it's not a one-size-fits-all, it's not magic, it takes engagement. But it opens each stage of the four-stage value chain for those to engage at a level and a place in the value chain that is pertinent to them or to their region. So in the commodification, it breaks it down to those four steps and allows that level of engagement, but also level of awareness from ground zero, where you're new entrants, right up. And as the hydrogen economy grows, the four-stage actualization chain and validation chain is flexible enough to grow with it. So therefore, it creates a levels within each stage of the four-stage chain and allows for that engagement. It allows for people to see where the benefits sit and allows them to what I call jump off point, or something we referred to earlier, that hydrogen highway, the on-ramps at a level and a speed and a technology opportunity for all to engage.
In terms of challenges and advances in hydrogen, what are some of the key issues the industry faces, and how can these be addressed?
One of the major key issues is cost. We cannot just look at cost of hydrogen in the singular old-fashioned economic value. The cost of clean energy has to be measured across three different matrices: economic cost, social cost, and environmental cost. And it's only when we start giving energy a proper value across those three matrices do we then look at the actual cost of fossil fuels and the damage they cause. So we cannot compare 1 kilogram of hydrogen with a barrel of oil and look at the energy output. All of the other costs that are associated with fossil fuels must be taken into account. All the other benefits of hydrogen as a clean energy must be taken into account. The creation of a clean economy, the creation of a clean community, the social cost, environmental cost, and the opportunity where we now can grow new economies because we will have energy autonomy. That's some of the significant challenges early we need to get on, because we still use the old economic metrics that are belonging to the old energy market. The energy equation has to change to take full recognition and benefit of a clean energy vector and the multifaceted benefits that brings. As we then start looking at the real cost, we then look at the real benefits. As communities and companies then transition from using heavy fuel and fossil fuels, of course, to hydrogen, it's not going to happen overnight. Journey there, a multi-stage journey that can be measured, reviewed, and validated at every step. It's not hydrogen at all costs. It's going to take time to get to that net zero. And that time is built into our targets of 2030 and 2050. Some communities, some industries, some countries will move faster across that because they're able to adapt quicker because of their opportunities, the needs, and the technology they have. But that pathway is accessible by all and to all. So as we move across, we learn the lessons, we share the lessons, and we open the opportunity, because we're creating a European economy here based on clean energy. Not on imported fuels, not on a supply chain we no longer control. It goes back to taking control of that energy supply chain and the multifaceted benefits that brings. So as we harness the full potential of nature in renewables, as we then develop clean energy vectors like hydrogen, where are the opportunities then we can challenge that? Now, there are difficulties and obstacles en route. That's not without saying. Any new technology takes time. Any new technology takes a lot of different challenges. But as we as the European Union and communities in that recognize those challenges, share those opportunities, we then can get to that targets of net zero quicker with some economies and some industries, and cleaner by moving across that and recognizing those challenges.
How do you see the future of clean hydrogen technology?
Clean hydrogen technology is in its infancy. It's a very nascent technology. If we compare the mobile phone. Look at the size of the mobile phones when they first come out. We are at that stage with electrolyzers, supply chain difficulties and problems. But the more effort and research that goes into the new economy, the more benefit we will get out. It's not to say the sky is the limit, but if we look at the other clean energy vectors that hydrogen then can be used for transport, such as ammonia, methanol, and others. It's not clean, green hydrogen at any cost. It's where we develop that and we have the different goals. So as that technology becomes developed, it becomes more mainstream, it'll open more doors of opportunity. It'll open more doors for different countries having different opportunities, such as geothermal, to develop their clean energy pathways in adjacency to wind, bio, and solar. If we look at the different regions where we can create new value chains, new supply chains across Europe, and importantly, how do we use hydrogen to address some of the wider global economic problems, those economic problems that lead to human migration? If we're able to work with those regions and give them that energy security that they need from renewables, you start addressing the root cause of migration, not just the problems. So it's not a sticking plaster approach. We talked about it earlier in the conversation. Hydrogen is much more than just an energy value. It is a multifaceted tool. Myself and Professor John Barry in Queen's are writing a paper at the minute about hydrogen horizons, how it opens new horizons beyond just the economic value. Social values, community values, and more. Exactly the same as we measure hydrogen more than just a cost in financial terms, we can measure the value of hydrogen more than just a reward, than just value in economic terms. How do we use hydrogen as one of the solutions to address a lot of the problems we currently face? And it's not just on clean fuel.
And can you tell me what's next on your hydrogen horizon after the GenComm project?
We have a couple of hydrogen valleys in development with Valencia and Rathlin in Ireland. We have the Galway Hydrogen Hub, now moving early stages of setting up. We're working on a couple of other projects with our partners across Europe and wider. We're working with partners in Ukraine, Slovenia, Slovakia at how we look at what we call energy branching. As we go through the electrolysis process, what are the other energy outputs that we can quantify, qualify, and find uses for? We talked earlier about Slovenia and the glass manufacturing works. Hydrogen is an energy value, but so is the oxygen. We're looking at the same in fertilizer production where oxygen is required, and in wastewater treatment, where we can use the oxygen also as an additional energy value and create that. We have a couple of projects looking at enhancing electrolysis and how we speed up the electrolyzer process so that that intermittency of renewables, that is a current problem, we overcome that. And looking at greater ramp up and startup times for electrolyzers and more regional electrolyzers, where the current drive is to get electrolyzers as big as possible and have them centrally located. We're looking in a project that we have at co-location of electrolyzers to form a ribbon network of smaller energy scale projects that captures all of the energy efficiency in all of the systems. So there's plenty of projects on the cards. It's getting the right ones to match the right time on that hydrogen value chain or hydrogen highway. It's identifying where the early goals are there and moving at that.
Where's the Ireland on this hydrogen map of Europe and the world?
I could be very opportunistic and say our view is to have Ireland as the green hydrogen capital of Europe. We have onshore and offshore potential, 10 times the size of the landmass, and we've become the green hydrogen supply chain on the west coast, an island off an island, to provide the opportunity for Europe. We can be the starting point or the finish point of that European highway, the east-west highway we referred to, but we've become a very important part of that highway. It's not individuals, it's that collective opportunity that hydrogen brings, where we all share the technologies, share the opportunities. We have a vision that positions Ireland as a test bed for new technologies, such as the micro hubs we've talked about. Prove the technology, prove the economic value, prove the environmental value, and then these projects can be scaled up across Europe in different opportunities and different installations. But where Ireland becomes the engine of the hydrogen economy.
Thank you, Paul, for being my guest today.
Arnes, it's my pleasure. GenComm is now moving into the next stage of its life. This will be the third stage where we now look to projects beyond. We look at some of the legacy projects we've developed, Hazel, hydrogen zero emission supply chains. We look at the PhD projects bid that we're going in with, being led by Dr. Bodo Gross and ITSIS and others. And it's where we share, where we collaborate, and through the Repower EU, realise those opportunities all across Europe. So it's been my pleasure. We have our Hydrogen Ireland Conference coming up on the 28th and 29th in Belfast. Hydrogen creating the balanced pathway to net zero. How we share the lessons, share the opportunities, and share a reap reward for all of Europe. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.